Postgame Show alongside Jim Donovan. I'm Dave DeNatale. The ping pong balls are in, and unfortunately it did not go well for the Cavaliers tonight. Jim Donovan, not only did the Cavs not get the first overall pick, they actually slid down a few notches from where they could have been slotted. I mean, we thought they might get a top 3 pick. Instead, they'll pick 5th in the upcoming NBA draft.
Yeah, disappointing for them and the Phoenix Suns and the New York Knicks. Those were the teams with the best chance. The Knicks, Suns, and Cavs all had that 14% chance. The NBA has changed the weight distribution, the chances in the draft lottery, and it certainly came into reality tonight because teams moved up right up at the top. I mean, the New Orleans Pelicans end up with the number 1 pick. The Memphis Grizzlies end up with the number 2 pick. The Lakers dramatically moved up. They got up to the number 4 spot in the NBA draft. And the Cavs go 5th, and it's very, very disappointing. I think on a lot of fronts here tonight. I think in New York, they're devastated.
Yes.
I think here in Cleveland, I think we're a little bit devastated because a lot of people think it's a 3-player draft and they're picking 5th. And to go hand in hand with the news yesterday with John Beilein coming here to handle a rebuilding project, and now it is really a rebuilding project that might be stalled a little bit because I just don't think the Cavs are an attractive situation for a free agent to come here.
Agreed.
And it's not a deep draft. And this is not going to be a quick turnaround, such as the case was when LeBron came here or when Kyrie Irving came here. It's not going to be that quick a turnaround. So, for all the teaching that John Beilein does, he's going to have to call on all of those strengths in his coaching bag of tricks to really. He is in a true rebuild situation.
You mentioned that most people think coming into this 2019 NBA draft, well, I mean, obviously there'll be a month of workouts and camps and things like that for players to show themselves, but everybody really thought that it was a 3-player NBA draft, that there are 3 guys you want to get, including the 2 young men from Duke, Williamson and Barrett. Now all of a sudden you sit there and you go, okay, for the Cavs, it's like, what's next? And now you're talking about, it's kind of like Colin Sexton, where, a player is good and deemed as a good player, but not somebody who's thought to be a franchise-changing player, which is, again, as you pointed out just a second ago, is what the Cavs are hoping to get out of the draft because you're generally not going to get that in free agency.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and they went into this on the telecast, and I get where they're coming from. Because they're trying to promote the fact that, hey, listen, you can find a number of players in the draft. And so they talk about the kid in Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. And he was 15th in the draft. But he was 15th in the draft in a deep draft.
Yes.
Okay? Steph Curry was 7th. He was 7th, but in a very deep draft. This is not a deep draft. The only other thing that hasn't been added into the whole recipe for the draft is there a European market? Are there great players that are going to all of a sudden pop up from the super European leagues over there, and like the player that Dallas got last year and had a great rookie season. And I don't know about that yet, but I would think there are a number of things that hit me tonight. Number 1, this is the NBA saying, hey, don't tank.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Don't tank.
Right.
Because even if you tank, if you go out and tank, there's no guarantee. Just ask the Knicks, the Cavs, and the Phoenix Suns. There's no guarantee you're going to get the top pick. So don't tank. The other thing is that I take a look, and if I'm the NBA, inside, and I know things have got to be equal, they have to be saying, son of a gun, look at what happened. The New York market is devastated.
Yeah, back to 3. They go from 1 to 3.
I mean, they were talking about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and Zion Williamson, and when Phoenix and Cleveland were eliminated, in the lottery tonight, it really looked good for the Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then all of a sudden, the Knicks went off the board at number 3. But the New York market is disappointed, and the other thing, the Chicago market's disappointed.
Yes.
I mean,
they settled they settled for 7th.
Yeah.
And they thought that they could squeeze. I think they had the 5th best chance, and they thought they could, position themselves and move upward.
The Lakers thought there was a little magic, and early in the evening it looked like there was going to be some magic, but now that becomes stale. The other thing is that I took a look at the face of Zion Williamson, and I think he was dejected.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he thought, New York, I'm going to be playing at Madison Square Garden, and it could be a a great team right away, definitely in the Eastern Conference if these super players come over and join me, and that's not going to happen now. And he's got a teammate, because presumably he's going to go to New Orleans, that doesn't want to be in New Orleans.
Right.
And I don't know that tonight changes a lot of that in the mind of Anthony Davis. Congratulations to David Griffin,
Yes, indeed.
the ultimate boom boom, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
To Dan Gilbert, the Cavaliers. I mean, imagine David Griffin is like a cold that just keeps coming back. There could be a raunchier comparison I could make, but he's like a cold that keeps coming back. I can't get rid of this cold.
Right.
And the Cavs can't get rid of David Griffin.
Right.
He haunted them in media,
Yep.
on the NBA television network, and on NBA radio, and all of the media outlets that he appeared on in his absence from a general manager's position here in Cleveland. Then he gets the New Orleans job like 10 days ago, and now he's got the first pick.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I mean, you know, and I'm with you. I don't know if they can walk back, if Anthony Davis can be walked back to staying for another year in New Orleans. I kind of felt like for everybody the bridge is burnt. Now maybe David Griffin can mend fences. He's got the relationship certainly with Rich Paul, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to be salvageable. So yeah, if you're Zion, you're like, man, what am I gotta go to New Orleans, and I have no idea what to expect down there.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you take a look, and a team like the Celtics, they're sitting there and they're saying, hey, listen, let's go get Anthony Davis.
Right.
Because they would be able to trade for him come July. And that is very doable now because David Griffin is in a position where he could draft Zion Williamson and will, okay? And he's, he could say, well, listen, I want to bring the kid in under a good circumstance. If I have this pouting superstar in Anthony Davis, maybe it's better to cut bait and just go into the rebuild, because that's going to be accelerated anyway by the mere fact that you have Zion Williamson. And so you trade Anthony Davis and you get back a big package.
Right,
okay,
right.
Which
The Celtics have so many young, talented players.
And picks. Yeah, and picks. They have a lot of capital. But I have to tell you, there are a lot of teams, I think, that are very, very disappointed that saw an opportunity to kind of, really turbocharge their rebuilding project, and they're not able to do that, and the Cavs are one of them.
Somebody said here on Facebook, we're going to draft a dude from Paraguay. I don't know what the international market looks like.
We need Fran Fraschilla for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Fran Fraschilla.
But somebody asked Jimmy, how does it work? It really is the luck of ping pong balls, but where you literally had the Pelicans. Let me make sure I had all the teams. I mean, the Lakers made a massive move up tonight. Memphis made a massive move up tonight. And the Pelicans made a massive move up tonight. It's so they say anyway. It's the luck of the draw. It's the luck of the ping pong ball.
Yeah. It's just I think there are a number of problems with it though, and that is that you look at the NFL, okay, and definitely we can look at it in our situation here in Cleveland. In 2 years, not the reward, but the way the system was set up, the 1-15 and the 0-16 got you Myles Garrett, and it got you Baker Mayfield, and really presumably Denzel Ward.
Yes.
Okay, and you got those players, and then you can go down into the second round, and you can go and fiddle with those situations too. It seems like a much better way to do things than this.
Yes.
I just don't know how you get teams better.
Right. Yeah, because now all of a sudden, I mean, if you're the Cavs, you're sitting there thinking, man, we had a terrible year. We were 19-63 or whatever the record was. I think
and
that's
some
right.
of that was their doing.
And some of that was their doing. I mean, they at some point they kind of pushed the eject button on trying to be a competing team and started offloading assets, and I get that. I mean,
well, the whole and even when Kevin Love became available to them, I mean, there were times where they wouldn't play him in the second half.
Right.
There were times that they would play on a Tuesday, but they'd be playing on a Saturday, and they would go, nope,
not going to play.
Not going to play. And I think it was because there was a point in the season where they were okay when Kevin Love was playing. They were competitive. They weren't ripping off, big wins, but they were very competitive to the point where they were taking games right down deep into games and winning a couple of them, not many, but winning a couple of them, and then they would take the air out of it.
Right.
They took their foot off the gas pedal, and there is no reward now for tanking.
Nope.
The NBA is coming out and saying, hey, listen, play to the end, play the 82
maybe,
games.
And Jimmy, maybe the grass was greener because, I didn't realize so many teams were tanking because the Cavs had that 4-year run of success when LeBron came back, and certainly, the first 8 years of his career. I mean, we weren't paying attention to what other teams were doing that closely, but the NBA really has changed the rules. Great question here from Chris. Guys, why does the NBA insist on holding the lottery, the actual picking of the picks, the ping pong balls behind closed doors?
Yeah, it's
a great question.
I think it goes back to, the first one. I think it goes back to the Patrick Ewing one,
yeah.
where there were all kinds of conspiracy theories that the NBA wanted Ewing to go to New York, leave Georgetown, go to New York, play for the Knicks, which he did, and they were very, very successful. Didn't get to all the way to the top of the mountain, but I mean, they were relevant, more than relevant. They were one of the cream teams in the Eastern Conference, but there was the bent envelope theory. There was there was all of that, and I think I just think it's because it's become such a, it's society. It's just something's always rigged.
Right, exactly.
It's always rigged. and I mean, if the Knicks had won it tonight, I think there would have been many people that said, oh, this thing's rigged. And because they do it behind closed doors, now you definitely know it's rigged. So I don't know, I don't know why really.
Right. And certainly if the Cavs had won it, I mean, we were sitting there going, man, if the Cavs win this thing, that would have been their 4th lottery win this decade.
Oh, fourth this decade,
if you count LeBron.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So really,
you can't win, I guess, from that standpoint.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, I mean, the Cavs can't complain. I mean,
No.
they've won it a number of times. They've won it probably more than anybody.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's what you do with it, and it has yielded us to watch some pretty fantastic basketball through the years. And you don't want to go through a long rebuild, but I think this one's going to be a long rebuild.
Yeah, because John asks, does this now mean, because the Cavs aren't going to get Zion, that they're going to really need to look in this offseason at trading Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that they have to look into that because, first of all, Tristan Thompson just gave them a bizarre year.
Yes.
And, I mean, he was more of a cheerleader on the bench than a player on the floor. And to be honest with you, since he's gotten that big contract, he really has not been the player that played before he got the big contract, which got him the big contract. So, that would be drastic, but I think that might get you back something where you could get the right kind of player that's going to fit with this kind of team. But I think this pushes the calendar that this is going to take some time.
Yeah, and I think everybody's expectations are unfortunately going to have to be adjusted.
Well, they've got the All-Star game.
They do have the All-Star game.
All-Star game.
Bruno says, a couple more questions from you folks out here. I heard a rumor LeBron wants to come back. Is there any truth to that? I don't think so. I mean, the whole LeBron's point, he really wanted to go to L.A. as much as anything else for his family, as much as for I think, his career. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon.
Well, it's the next stage will be, aside from the draft, will be free agency. And that really becomes the stage because of what happened tonight and who didn't get up to where they wanted to get to. What will they be able to do in free agency? Where are these players going to go? I mean, as much as we say the Celtics are really armed better than anybody for a trade for Anthony Davis, okay? If New Orleans says, okay, we cannot heal whatever went wrong here. We can't make Anthony Davis want to play here in New Orleans. So we're just going to go with Zion Williamson and get the best package. It appears that the Celtics have the best package that they could, offer to get him. But the Lakers could be right there too.
Well,
they could be right there too, and that could change the whole dynamic with LeBron James and what's going to happen. What's going to happen with Kevin Durant?
Right.
What is going to happen with Irving?
Kawhi Leonard.
What would happen with Kawhi Leonard?
I mean, there are going to be so many dominoes that are going to fall. I mean, does this run that Toronto's on and the shot he made the other night, does that convince him to stay in Toronto if they make it to the finals? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Thoughts on real quick because we didn't have a show yesterday. What are your thoughts on the John Beilein hire? The fact that they hired, I guess I'm not surprised they hired a college coach. I mean, we know that from the state of Michigan. I'm surprised a 66-year-old head coach. I was surprised. I was a little surprised, to be honest.
I mean, they interviewed I said this on the news last night, it seemed as though they interviewed every assistant coach in the NBA.
Pretty much.
None of them had a wow factor. So Jason Lloyd was on with us last night on the 7 o'clock news and made a very good point. He feels there are always two lists. There's the general manager's list and there's the owner's list. And the owner's list is a wow list.
Yes.
So the owner's list no doubt had Tom Izzo on it again. Let's give him a phone call. You know, I love him. I always go to him to see if he's changed his mind and is interested in the NBA. And I think that Beeline, you know, is more of a wow. Look at what the Cavs did than any of these assistant coaches. Now, he's going to need some of these guys, or at least one of them, who he interviewed to come here to be his assistant, because this guy has not been around the NBA at all.
It's
a long way from Canisius.
Right,
Okay?
exactly. It sounds like one of the possible marriages is Bickerstaff, JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the comfort factor is going to be important because, you know, and Jason made a good point last night. I keep going back to him, but he's very well plugged in the NBA. He said, you're going to have to give Beeline a couple of his own guys that he's comfortable with, and then you can bring the NBA guys in, okay? And these NBA coaching staffs now are half a dozen, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
They're all kinds of first chair, second chair. It's like a law firm. And I think that that's true. I think he's going to have somebody that he's comfortable with, because it goes back to the whole David Blatt situation. David Blatt didn't get any of his own guys.
No.
He got told who his assistants were going to be, and specifically Ty Lue. It's why Ty Lue didn't take the Laker job, because they told him Jason Kidd has got to be sitting right beside you. So there has to be a comfort factor where this thing will blow up just like
very quickly,
just like other things.
Yeah, and it puts you back years and years. Last thought. Raymond says Cavs need to pick a good player to fit at 5. I hope Love does not get hurt. We all do. Get rid of GM and sell the team. NBA done with me as long as LeBron is not a Cav. I get that. Everybody, there are still people who still are having a hard time getting on board the Cavs because you don't have number 23 anymore. But this is now, I mean, they drafted Colin Sexton last year, Jimmy. You know, the hope is, I think, whoever is available at 5, whoever they can bring in and get, is another piece of a future core.
Yeah, I think so. And the other thing is, I think a lot of people believe that after watching Sexton play and score the way he did at the end of the year, he's out of position.
Yes.
Okay, he's not really a point guard. He's a 2. He's a shooting guard. I mean, and his shot's going to improve, and his offensive game is fine, and he can create a lot of shots, and he can create really almost Irving-like by going to the basket. Now, he'll get better at that, but I don't think he's a point guard, which is why if they weren't going to win the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick, which is where they were kind of slotted, would have been fine, because then they could have taken the kid from Duke.
Or Barrett. And then
these guys and get a true point guard, and now the backcourt is okay.
Yes.
You know, now you have a backcourt.
Yeah. Now things are kind of all up in there, and now it reminds me of the Dion Waiters draft, where you're sitting there, you're going, okay, where's Bradley Beal going to fall? Where's Harrison Barnes going to fall? And you're just sitting there hoping you still have a quality player left. It's kind of like that here for the Cavs. Jimmy, thanks for hanging around with me. Full reaction tonight from Jimmy on Channel 3 News at 11. We've got plenty of NBA draft lottery material right now at WKYC.com for you to check out from Matt Florjancic and Ben Axelrod. For Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching a special lottery edition of the Donovan Live Postgame Show. That's it.
All right.